Every action we take is a vote for the type of person we wish to become. This truth lies at the heart of James Clear's philosophy in Atomic Habits, a book not just about change, but about identity, transformation, and the silent, steady power of consistent behavior. Most people think success comes from massive action. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if true, lasting change isn't about sudden inspiration or intense hustle, but rather, small habits that quietly compound over time? That's the idea of Atomic Habits: tiny changes, remarkable results. Let's start by understanding what habits truly are. Habits are the automatic behaviors that shape our daily lives. From brushing our teeth to checking our phones, these routines govern our choices without us realizing it. James Clear argues that if you can change your habits, you can change your life, because your life is essentially the sum of your habits. The problem is, change is hard. We often try to change our outcomes, lose weight, get rich, be productive, but we ignore the systems behind those outcomes. If your goal is to become fit, but you eat junk food every night, the system is broken. That's why Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. To change your life, you must change your system. And systems are built with habits, daily, repetitive actions that, over time, carve your identity and your destiny. So what exactly is an atomic habit? The term, atomic, refers to something tiny but powerful, like an atom. Atomic habits are small routines and behaviors that, when repeated regularly, create compound growth. They're easy to do and easy not to do. But the people who change their lives are the ones who choose to do them, every day, without fail. James gives a powerful metaphor. Imagine a plane leaving Los Angeles for New York. If the nose of the plane shifts just 3.5 degrees south, the plane ends up in Washington, D.C. instead. That tiny shift in direction, sustained over time, leads to a massive change in destination. That's how habits work. A 1% improvement every day doesn't feel like much. But over a year, it compounds to nearly 38 times better results. The same is true in reverse. A 1% decline every day leads to failure, frustration, and lost potential. So how do we build good habits and break bad ones? Clear introduces the 4 laws of behavior change, a science-based framework that makes habit change practical and possible. These laws are: 1. Make it obvious. 2. Make it attractive. 3. Make it easy. 4. Make it satisfying. And their opposites help you break bad habits. 1. Make it invisible. 2. Make it unattractive. 3. Make it hard. 4. Make it unsatisfying. But before we dive into those, we must understand something deeper: identity. James says the most effective way to change your behavior is to focus on who you wish to become, not what you want to achieve. Goals are outcome-based. Systems are process-based. Identity is belief-based. Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, say, I am a runner. Instead of, I want to quit smoking, say, I am not a smoker. Every time you act in alignment with that identity, you reinforce it. It becomes more real, more rooted. You're not just doing something, you're becoming someone. Let's take an example. Imagine 2 people offered a cigarette. The first says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. The second says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Both refuse the cigarette, but the second person speaks from identity. That shift makes the habit change more lasting because your identity shapes your habits, and your habits reinforce your identity in a loop. This is called the identity feedback loop. Your behaviors reinforce your identity, and your identity shapes your behaviors. If you want to become someone new, start by acting like them, even in the smallest way. Each habit becomes a vote for the person you wish to become. James also introduces the concept of the habit loop, based on behavior psychology. It consists of 4 stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. A cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. A craving is the desire to change your state. The response is the habit itself. And the reward satisfies the craving and teaches your brain whether to repeat the loop. For example, the cue might be seeing your phone screen light up. The craving is the desire for social connection. The response is checking the message. The reward is feeling connected. Understanding this loop helps you redesign your habits, whether building new ones or breaking bad ones. So how do you make it obvious? The first law is all about awareness. If you want to change your habits, you must first become aware of them. James recommends a strategy called the habit scorecard. Write down your daily behaviors and label them as positive, negative, or neutral. For example, wake up, neutral. Check phone, negative. Drink water, positive. This helps you recognize the habits you perform on autopilot and which ones need to change. Then, use implementation intentions, a strategy that makes your habits specific and time-bound. Instead of saying, I'll work out more, say, I'll go to the gym at 7 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Even better, use habit stacking, pair a new habit with an existing one. After I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. The more specific, the more automatic the behavior becomes. You're creating a roadmap your brain can follow without friction. Next is the second law: make it attractive. Habits are a dopamine-driven feedback loop. If you want to repeat a behavior, it must feel rewarding. One way to do this is through temptation bundling. Pair something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, I'll only watch Netflix while I'm on the treadmill. You create anticipation. You train your brain to associate a positive outcome with the habit. Social environment also plays a huge role. We tend to imitate the habits of 3 groups: the close, the many, and the powerful. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want. Join a fitness class, a writing group, or an accountability circle. Culture shapes behavior. When a habit feels normal in your group, it becomes easier to adopt. Then comes the third law: make it easy. Clear says, habits are not formed by motivation, but by repetition. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to show up. The key is to reduce friction. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow. If you want to practice guitar, keep it in the living room. Environment often matters more than willpower. You can also use the 2-minute rule. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to start. Want to meditate? Start with just sitting on the cushion. Want to run? Just put on your shoes and step outside. Once you start, momentum builds. Action leads to identity, which reinforces action. Finally, the fourth law: make it satisfying. Behavior needs to feel rewarding in the moment to stick. But many good habits have delayed rewards. Exercise pays off months later, while bad habits feel good now but cost us later. To counter this, use habit tracking. Mark an X on your calendar each day you complete the habit. Seeing the streak becomes motivating. The rule is, never miss twice. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the start of a new habit, the wrong one. Also, consider immediate rewards for long-term habits, like celebrating with a healthy smoothie after a workout. Make success visible. Make effort feel good. We now turn to one of the most important and overlooked principles in the journey of habit formation: the plateau of latent potential. When we start building a new habit, progress is not immediately visible. You go to the gym for a week, and nothing changes. You begin eating healthy, and the scale doesn't budge. You write for a month, and no one reads your work. This is the valley of disappointment. But what we don't realize is that meaningful change takes time. The results don't come linearly, they come exponentially. James Clear compares this to an ice cube sitting in a cold room. It's -5 degrees Celsius, then -4 degrees Celsius, -3 degrees Celsius, nothing happens. But when it hits 0 degrees Celsius, the ice begins to melt. The prior build-up was not wasted, it was essential. That's the power of latent potential. Your efforts are not being ignored, they are being stored. The key is to stick with the process long enough for the breakthrough to happen. Unfortunately, many people give up too soon. They quit the gym, stop writing, abandon the new diet, just before the ice melts. To succeed, we must be patient and trust the process. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement, and the most powerful outcomes are delayed. Your job is not to predict when success will come, but to continue casting votes for the person you want to become. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. James says, success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. Another core idea in Atomic Habits is environment design. Most people overestimate the importance of motivation and underestimate the power of environment. Motivation can get you started, but environment keeps you going. If your phone is on your desk, you'll reach for it. If a bag of chips is on the counter, you'll eat it. Our surroundings shape our behaviors more than we realize. That's why Clear says, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Take the example of Brian Wanzink, a food psychologist who discovered that people eat more when they use bigger plates or when snacks are visible on countertops. One of his studies found that office workers who had candy on their desks consumed an average of 77 more calories per day than those who kept candy in a drawer. That's over 28,000 extra calories a year, enough to gain 8 pounds, just from a minor environmental cue. The takeaway: make good habits obvious and bad habits invisible. Put your running shoes by the door. Hide the remote. Delete toxic apps. Prepare your environment so that the path of least resistance leads to better choices. James gives us a simple rule: you don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can be the architect of it. This applies not just to your physical space, but your digital and social spaces too. If you want to read more, rearrange your phone's home screen so the Kindle app is front and center, and TikTok is buried. If you want to write more, use website blockers during writing time. Design beats willpower every time. Now let's revisit the habit loop: cue, craving, response, reward. The reason it's so powerful is that it applies to every habit, good or bad. Let's dissect a bad habit. Say, scrolling Instagram at night. Cue: you lie in bed. Craving: you're bored or anxious. Response: open Instagram. Reward: distraction or dopamine. Once you identify the loop, you can disrupt it. Maybe you keep your phone in another room. Maybe you use a physical book to wind down. If you remove the cue, the loop can't start. If you change the craving, the response shifts. That's the science of breaking bad habits: make them invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. To reinforce good habits, make the loop work in your favor. Let's say you want to journal every morning. Cue: coffee maker finishes brewing. Craving: you want to feel clear-minded. Response: sit with your notebook. Reward: sense of order and emotional release. Once this loop repeats, your brain begins to crave the ritual. Eventually, journaling isn't something you force, it's something you miss when skipped. This is the hallmark of an ingrained habit. One of the most motivating insights in the book is about the importance of repetition. You don't need to be great to start, you just need to start. James Clear shares the story of a photography professor who divided his class into two groups. One group was graded on the quantity of photos they produced, the other on the quality of just one perfect photo. At the end of the semester, the best photos came from the quantity group. Why? Because they practiced, experimented, and failed more. Action leads to refinement. The lesson: focus on doing, not perfecting. Let the habit form before you worry about optimizing it. This brings us to the power of standardizing before optimizing. Don't try to become the best immediately. Just become consistent. Build the habit first, then improve it. Want to run marathons? Start with short daily jogs. Want to start a YouTube channel? Make simple videos consistently before chasing viral content. Want to build a business? Serve one customer well before building a brand. Master the habit of showing up. That's where all success begins. James also discusses the Goldilocks rule: we stay motivated when a task is just on the edge of our current abilities. If it's too easy, we get bored. If it's too hard, we get discouraged. The sweet spot is something challenging but achievable. In sports, games, writing, or business, progress feels best when it stretches us, just enough. If you're learning a new skill, design your habits to gradually increase in difficulty. Start small, and then slowly raise the bar. That way, you stay engaged and avoid burnout. Another fascinating concept is habit tracking. The idea is simple: what gets measured gets managed. If you track your habits, marking each day you meditate, exercise, write, or eat well, you create a visual cue that reinforces your behavior. A chain of excess on a calendar becomes something you want to maintain. This strategy, used by comedian Jerry Seinfeld to develop his writing discipline, is deceptively powerful. The key is consistency, not perfection. The rule: never miss twice. Skipping once is part of life. Skipping twice is the start of a new habit, the wrong one. But what about those days when we lose motivation entirely? That's where the idea of accountability and identity come in. When your habits are tied to your identity, you don't rely on willpower, you rely on belief. You're not someone trying to exercise. You are an athlete. You're not trying to write. You are a writer. When behavior becomes who you are, skipping it feels wrong. It creates internal friction. This emotional tension is good. It brings you back on track. Also, consider accountability partners or habit contracts. Share your goals with a friend. Create a consequence for missing a habit, like donating to a cause you dislike. When the cost of failure rises, consistency improves. We're social creatures. Use that psychology in your favor. One of the most elegant ideas in Atomic Habits is this: the most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. Behavior comes first. Identity follows. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait to feel ready. Start. Act. The actions will reinforce the identity, and soon enough, you're no longer pretending, you are living it. In closing this segment, let's reflect on what we've learned so far. Habits matter because they build our future. The quality of our lives depends on the quality of our systems. We don't succeed by magic, nor by intensity, but by consistency. Small habits, atomic habits, accumulate like snow, slowly turning into avalanches. A 1% improvement today may not look like much, but it's a seed planted. With time, water, and care, it will grow into something extraordinary. Don't underestimate the power of small wins. Don't dismiss the significance of a 5-minute habit. And most importantly, don't give up just because the progress isn't visible yet. The ice will melt, the compound interest will pay off, and you'll become the person you were always meant to be, not through force, but through repetition, alignment, and vision. No matter how well designed your system is, setbacks are inevitable. Even the most disciplined person will occasionally miss a workout, eat poorly, or procrastinate. James Clear reminds us that success is not about never falling, but about how quickly we recover. The ability to get back on track after slipping is what separates professionals from amateurs, and consistency from chaos. One bad day doesn't break a habit. What matters is that you don't let it become two. That's why the "never miss twice" rule is so powerful. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the beginning of a new habit, the wrong one. When you fall off track, don't wait for Monday, the first of the month, or a better time. Start again immediately. The quicker the rebound, the stronger the habit muscle becomes. This leads to the idea that habits are not just about doing the right thing, they're about building resilience. Think about an athlete. A good training plan isn't just about strength or speed, it also includes recovery, flexibility, and rest. Similarly, a good habit system includes safeguards and fallback options. If you normally write for an hour a day but have no time, write for 5 minutes. If you can't go to the gym, do 20 squats at home. Shrink the scope, but stick to the schedule. This way, you avoid the identity-breaking pain of starting over. You maintain the rhythm, even if it's quiet. James Clear also explores how goals can often work against us. While goals are good for direction, they are terrible for long-term progress. Why? Because once we achieve a goal, we often stop the behavior that got us there. The person who trains hard to lose 10 kilograms often slides back once they reach the number. The student who studies for months just to pass the exam may stop learning after the test. That's why Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. The secret to long-term success lies in systems, daily practices that sustain progress even when motivation fades. A good system is designed to survive bad days, low energy, and changing circumstances. This is what makes habits so powerful. They free us from the need to constantly decide. When a habit is embedded, it happens almost without thought. You no longer rely on willpower, you rely on routine. You don't have to choose to be productive, disciplined, or focused. You've already chosen, every day, for months, until it became part of who you are. This kind of identity-shaping behavior applies not just to individuals, but to organizations. James highlights how businesses succeed not because of their goals, but because of their culture, the collective habits of the team. Think of companies like Apple or Amazon. Their success wasn't just about vision, it was about systems. Apple's relentless focus on design isn't an occasional goal. It's baked into every process. Amazon's obsession with customer service isn't a one-time initiative. It's part of how every employee thinks. Culture is a collection of habits: how you hire, how you meet, how you communicate, how you solve problems. And just like with individuals, if you want to change your company's trajectory, change the system that shapes its daily behavior. In sports, the same principles apply. James tells the story of successful teams that build habits of excellence. The New Zealand All Blacks rugby team has a culture where players clean their own locker room after every game. Why? Because humility and discipline aren't just taught, they're lived. When a habit becomes part of the identity, greatness becomes a byproduct. It's not about being perfect in the moment, it's about being consistent over time. Now let's talk about the role of focus in habit formation. In a world filled with distractions, one of the hardest things is to stay committed to the process. Clear reminds us that habits are not a finish line, they are a lifestyle. To succeed, you must love the process more than the outcome. The people who master their craft, whether in music, writing, sports, or science, are the ones who learn to embrace the boredom of repetition. They don't get bored of the practice, they get good at practicing. There's a deep, almost meditative joy in repeating the same drills, the same lines, the same behaviors. And it's this commitment to process, not just goals, that leads to mastery. Here's a powerful truth: outcomes are lagging indicators of habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your bank balance is a lagging measure of your spending and saving habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your reading habits. If you want to change the outcome, you must change the input. Focus on the process, and the results will follow. This is the opposite of how most people live. They chase outcomes and get frustrated when results don't come fast. But when you shift your focus from goals to growth, from outcomes to identity, everything changes. You become the kind of person who improves, every single day. James also emphasizes the importance of measurement. What gets measured gets improved. But not all metrics are created equal. Some are outcome-based, like weight, revenue, or grades. Others are input-based, like number of workouts, hours practiced, or pages written. The key is to measure the things you can control. Focus on the input, and trust that the output will eventually reflect the effort. If you're a content creator, measure how many pieces you publish each week, not how many likes they get. If you're building a business, track your product iterations, not just your sales. If you're training, track your sessions, not your weight loss. It's about controlling what you can control and letting the compound effect do its work. Let's shift gears and explore how habits shape perception. Once a habit is formed, it changes the way we see the world. A musician doesn't just hear notes, they feel patterns. A designer doesn't just see colors, they see harmony and contrast. A writer doesn't just read words, they sense rhythm and tone. Habits expand perception, they transform us. And the more we practice them, the more our brain rewires itself through neuroplasticity to make that behavior automatic. This is why habits can seem hard at first, but easy later. The brain is literally changing to support your chosen identity. And that's a deeply hopeful idea. You're not stuck. You're not fixed. You can change, not overnight, but over time. Clear also discusses how success is not linear. Progress often comes in waves. There are plateaus, setbacks, breakthroughs, and sudden growth spurts. Just like compound interest in finance, the biggest gains come after years of consistent action. This is what makes habit building both difficult and magical. You may not see results for a while, but when you do, they explode. It's like planting bamboo. For years, nothing seems to happen. But when the roots are ready, it grows 90 feet in a few weeks. That's the reward for patience, process, and belief. Let's take a moment to review some of the tactical tools from the first two sections and how they connect with this mindset of long-term transformation. Use habit stacking to link new habits to existing ones. Apply the 2-minute rule to make habits easy to start. Make habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Design your environment to support your goals. Track your habits to stay accountable and motivated. Align your habits with your identity to make them stick. These aren't just techniques, they are principles. They're based on psychology, neuroscience, and real-world examples. They work because they align with how the human brain is wired. We crave simplicity. We follow cues. We repeat what's rewarding. And when we set up the right system, success becomes inevitable. Finally, James introduces the idea that life is not just about achieving, it's about evolving. The habits you build today won't just help you reach a goal. They'll help you become a better version of yourself. A more patient parent, a more thoughtful leader, a more creative artist, a more courageous entrepreneur. And that's the real power of habits. They don't just change what you do. They change who you are. At this point in our journey through Atomic Habits, we've explored the power of identity-based change, the structure of the habit loop, the importance of environment design, and the long-term value of consistent behavior. Now, we shift to the psychological barriers to habit formation and the strategies for long-term sustainability. One of the biggest reasons people fail to stick with habits is boredom. At first, new habits are exciting. You feel energized when you start a workout program, a new diet, or a creative routine. But eventually, novelty fades. Motivation declines. Progress slows. And that's when most people quit. But here's the truth. The difference between the best performers and everyone else is not that they avoid boredom, it's that they master it. James Clear writes, "The greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom." Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Think of elite athletes, best-selling authors, or successful entrepreneurs. They show up even when they don't feel like it. They write when they're uninspired. They train when they're tired. They lead meetings when they'd rather be alone. What makes them great isn't a lack of boredom, it's consistency despite boredom. They've learned to fall in love with the process, not just the results. So how can we build this mindset ourselves? First, accept that boredom is part of mastery. It's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing it right. Second, use boredom to refine technique. When a task becomes automatic, it opens up bandwidth for depth. A pianist can focus on phrasing. A coder can refine logic. A writer can work on nuance. Third, schedule variety within structure. For example, if you're a runner, change your route, pace, or playlist, but don't skip the run. If you're a teacher, try new exercises or formats, but don't abandon the curriculum. Structure provides discipline, variety keeps it alive. Let's talk about burnout. Sometimes, the problem isn't boredom, it's overcommitment. When we try to overhaul our lives overnight, we exhaust our mental and emotional energy. That's why James emphasizes small wins. Build momentum slowly. Master the art of showing up. If your goal is to build a daily journaling habit, start with one sentence. If you want to meditate, begin with 2 minutes. Success comes from scaling up over time, not sprinting at the start. Think of habits as investments. A few deposits each day yield far more over time than a single, intense contribution that drains you. This leads us to the concept of automation. One of the best ways to make habits stick is to remove the need to make decisions altogether. Automate your behavior. That could mean prepping your meals every Sunday so you don't have to think about lunch. It could mean setting up automatic transfers to your savings account. Or it could mean creating a writing routine where you always start after your morning tea. The fewer choices you have to make, the easier it is to stay consistent. Your brain loves certainty and predictability. When habits become automatic, they stop costing mental energy. James Clear also explores how to redesign habits for different seasons of life. Circumstances change: jobs, family, health, energy levels. The key to consistency isn't doing the exact same thing every time, it's adjusting the scale while preserving the identity. If you're a new parent, your workouts may shift from gym sessions to quick home exercises. If you're recovering from illness, your reading habit may go from an hour to 5 minutes. The habit survives because the identity stays intact. You're still the kind of person who trains, who learns, who creates. This flexibility is what keeps a habit alive over decades. Let's take a moment to reflect on a key truth from this book. Your habits must adapt to your current reality, not your ideal conditions. There will never be a perfect time. Life will always throw obstacles. But if you've designed your habits to be flexible, you can maintain momentum. A 5-minute habit beats a perfect plan you never execute. Don't wait for life to settle down. Build a system that thrives in the mess. Now let's look at keystone habits. These are habits that trigger positive ripple effects in other areas of your life. For example, exercise is a keystone habit. People who exercise regularly tend to eat healthier, sleep better, and experience lower stress. Writing every morning may lead to better communication throughout your day. Meditating may make you more patient, focused, and emotionally grounded. James suggests identifying your own keystone habits and prioritizing them. When you reinforce one, others naturally improve. It's like knocking down the first domino. At this point, we've discussed many methods for building and sustaining habits. But there's one more layer: reflection and review. Just like businesses hold quarterly reviews and athletes watch game footage, we must periodically review our habits. Ask yourself, is this habit still serving me? Is it aligned with who I want to become? What's working? What's not? What could be tweaked? Without review, habits can become stale or even harmful. You may be maintaining a habit that no longer aligns with your identity. Regular reflection, monthly, quarterly, or annually, ensures that your system evolves with your goals. Let's bring in a few real-world examples. Consider Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors. His keystone habit, reading. He reportedly reads over 500 pages a day. This habit informs his thinking, decisions, and long-term vision. Or take Maya Angelou, who wrote in a rented hotel room with only a bed, a desk, and a Bible. She created an environment that removed distraction. Or Tim Ferriss, who uses habit tracking to ensure consistency in exercise, writing, and diet. These are not superhumans, they are ordinary people with extraordinary systems. James Clear gives us another tool, the accountability contract. This involves writing down your habit commitment, signing it, and sharing it with someone else. For example, I, Rahul, will walk 10,000 steps every day. If I miss 2 days in a row, I will donate 1,000 rupees to a political party I dislike. This creates both internal and external motivation. The financial and emotional cost of failure increases your commitment. You can also use apps that track your habits and notify a partner or coach. The more public the commitment, the more likely you are to follow through. Another concept Clear discusses is the distinction between motion and action. Motion is planning, researching, preparing. Action is doing. Many people stay stuck in motion. They read about running, buy new shoes, plan routes, but never run. Motion feels productive but doesn't produce results. Action creates real change. So ask yourself, am I planning, or am I acting? If you want to improve, you must do the reps. Knowledge is potential. Action is power. Finally, James leaves us with this profound truth. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. It's not about intensity. It's about identity. Each time you practice your habit, you reinforce your future self. You don't need to make dramatic changes. You just need to keep voting, day after day, for the person you want to be. Over time, the votes add up. And eventually, the old identity fades, and the new one takes its place. Whether you're building habits in health, wealth, creativity, relationships, or personal growth, remember, the process is the same. Start small, make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Design your environment, track your progress, review and adjust, align with your identity, and above all, keep going. Habits are the invisible architecture of daily life. With each habit you shape, you are shaping your future, not through willpower, but through design. As we arrive at the final chapter of our journey through atomic habits, it's important to recognize what's truly been built. Not just a toolkit of strategies, but a new way of seeing ourselves and the world. We've moved from habit as a task, to habit as identity. From temporary change, to lasting transformation. And now, James Clear leaves us with several advanced ideas to make these habits more resilient, personalized, and legacy-worthy. Let's begin with the concept of deliberate practice. Once a habit becomes automatic, there's a risk, complacency. Just because something is a habit doesn't mean it's producing excellence. So how do we improve beyond automaticity? The answer lies in reflection and refinement. James Clear references the concept of the Goldilocks zone, again, where the challenge is not too easy, not too hard, but just enough to stretch us. To keep growing, we need to focus attention on where we're weak. A pianist doesn't just play full songs, they isolate the difficult bars. A writer doesn't just write more, they focus on better metaphors, tighter sentences. Improvement is intentional. You can use tools like feedback loops, coaching, or self-review to identify areas of plateau. Ask, what's the one thing I'm avoiding in this habit? Where am I stagnating? Where do I feel resistance? That's your edge. Lean into it. Train there. That's how you go from good to great. James also explains the idea of identity flexibility. As we grow, our goals and roles evolve. A habit that served you once may not serve you forever. The danger is getting stuck in an outdated identity. For example, someone who has long seen themselves as the hustle person might struggle when it's time to slow down, delegate, or transition to leadership. Someone who once needed intense discipline to build health might now need to cultivate rest, mindfulness, or play. So reflect regularly. Who am I becoming? Do my habits still serve that version of me? This kind of self-awareness is crucial. Our identity is not fixed. It is fluid, and our habits should reflect that. You can shed old layers and still remain true to your core. You're not betraying your past self, you're upgrading your model of the future. Just like a company reinvents its brand to stay relevant, we must reinvent our behaviors as we evolve. And what about legacy? In the final chapters, James Clear explores how habits ripple beyond the self. Your habits influence your family, your team, your community. When you become someone who exercises consistently, reads deeply, speaks kindly, or handles stress with grace, you give silent permission for others to do the same. Your identity, lived through your actions, becomes an invitation for transformation in others. Think of a teacher who always shows up early, not because it's required, but because they care. That consistency becomes a message. Think of a parent who reads every evening. The child absorbs not just words, but discipline. Think of a leader who listens, even under pressure. The team learns emotional regulation by proximity. This is the social inheritance of your habits. You build not just a life, but a legacy. Clear shares the story of a man who quit smoking after realizing that every time he lit a cigarette, he was teaching his son what adulthood looked like. The change didn't come from statistics or pressure, it came from identity and love. The habit shifted when the lens shifted. And that's the ultimate message of this book: you become what you repeat. You teach what you embody. And you leave behind what you live daily. Let's revisit the entire framework one final time. The 4 laws of behavior change. 1. Make it obvious. Design your environment and clarify your cues. 2. Make it attractive. Use temptation bundling, social alignment, and dopamine triggers. 3. Make it easy. Reduce friction. Apply the 2-minute rule. Master repetition. 4. Make it satisfying. Use habit tracking, rewards, and the power of visual progress. Their inverses help you break bad habits. Make it invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. And the deeper principles underneath: identity-based habits. Focus on who you want to become, not just what you want to do. Systems over goals. Build a repeatable, reliable structure that leads to outcomes. Environment design. Shape your surroundings so good behavior is the path of least resistance. Compound growth. Small changes, repeated over time, become massive transformations. Reflection and review. Adjust your system as you grow and evolve. Love the process. Fall in love with the act of improvement, not just the result. Throughout this audiobook, we've heard stories, from Olympic cyclists to everyday readers, who used these ideas to change their lives. But the most important story is still unwritten: yours. The question is not, can I do it? The real question is, what kind of person do I want to become? If your answer is, I want to be the kind of person who takes action, who grows daily, who lives intentionally, then habits are your path. No massive overhaul needed, just one small action, done today. One vote cast, one brick laid. Because a habit is not a finish line. It's a foundation. It's the daily proof that you are becoming that kind of person. Let's close with James Clear's words: you should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. Don't worry if the outcome isn't perfect today. Don't worry if you stumble or miss. Look at the angle of your path. Are you heading in the right direction? If so, stay on it. Let time work for you. Let systems carry you. Let identity transform you. The effects of your actions multiply as they are repeated. Day by day, you are either becoming better or worse, stronger or weaker, closer to your ideal self, or further away. The choice is yours, and it doesn't require genius or willpower or magic. It just requires one atomic habit, started today, and repeated tomorrow. Thank you for walking this journey through atomic habits. May your habits be small, but mighty. May your identity be chosen, not inherited. And may your daily actions build a future you're proud of. Not just for yourself, but for everyone you influence along the way.